Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. We are back here at our creeper farm and I need to make a couple of changes because as we saw in the last video, we need some place where the creepers are going to be stored which is not covered in water as this little section here is. But now we know that's off the end of the platform here and it's going to have the open sky above it. What I'm thinking about doing is just making another tank for them off the end of this water stream. So all we'll do is take out these blocks here and build a little containment area underneath that doesn't have any water in, but the creepers are going to be able to be stored there for the foreseeable future until we end up with, I'm just going to check that none of them are going to fall on my head right now, until we end up with a storm happening, at which point we will be able to electrify all of the creepers and start to use them to gather mob heads. So the plan for today's episode is going to be to make a hostile mob spawner up here in the sky from which we can extract skeletons, creepers, and zombies that we'll be able to blow up with the charged creepers and acquire mob heads for each of those mobs. We're not going to rope in the wither skeletons until the wither skeleton farm is done, which is going to take a little bit of extra time, but I think it should be worth it in the long run. And then we'll just have to wait for a storm, which is going to take a little while, so we can build up the mob farm in the meantime, and I will be doing my best not to sleep. I'll probably bring a bed over just so I can reset my insomnia counter and not have to deal with phantoms because I won't be working with a block over my head the entire time. But the first thing I'm going to do is AFK here for a little while and name tag some creepers. So I have been spending a little bit of time gathering these creepers up, and I have been spending a bit more time taking down some of the terrain in the nether. It is raining, but not thundery, so I have not yet been able to charge the creepers, but I have probably about, I'd say, 12 or 13 creepers down there right now. They are looking pretty tightly packed in, but they are all, most importantly, name tagged Electric Mayhem. So we have a pool of creepers down there that we can charge. And we have a few more coming in as well. Those are unfortunately going to despawn unless I can name tag that one. Yep, okay, we got that one. Great. So over here is where the next step is going to take place, and this is going to be a single platform mob spawner. Nothing too intensive. The ice in the center is going to represent where a water source is going to pop out of a dispenser. That's just there as a placeholder because for right now, all I need to do is build out this platform in the formation that we can expect water to spread out from a single water source in the middle, and when that's together it should look something like this. And now if I break the water source in the middle here, if I break that block of ice, the water should flow out to the very edges of the platform, which is perfect. Now we need to build a roof over the top of this thing using slabs to make sure the entire thing is sheltered from light, but is also going to provide spawns in here because the light level is going to be below 7. That's the plan. Let's get to it. Now, of course, this is going to require a lot more slabs than spawnable blocks because we're going to make sure that the light level is down to 7 even on these little spaces on the corners here. So we're actually going to have to bring the roof out quite some distance, which is why I have this many smooth stone slabs in my inventory. Once that's done, we're going to set up a redstone clock that's going to activate the dispenser and then retract the dispenser every so often, doing a similar flushing thing to the creeper farm down there, but for just this one platform. And that platform is hopefully going to spawn a variety of mobs each time the water goes away again, and we're going to be able to flush them all into some sort of collection mechanism down here where the mobs are going to be sorted. And so today, not only are we going to do a mob head farm, but we're also going to look a little bit into mob sorting mechanics and how we can separate out each individual type of mob that we can expect to spawn in this farm. Unfortunately, the slabs I had weren't quite enough, and the only reason mobs are spawning under there right now is because it's nighttime, but you can see the idea, right? All of the mobs are going to spawn on this platform. It's going to limit it to mobs that have to have a 2-block high space, so it's going to eliminate stuff like Enderman, and the mobs are not going to be able to make their way over to me right now because the glass platform that I built here is not going to be there. That's just for the purposes of scaffolding without actually using scaffolding because that would require pillars every 6 blocks. But what we've got here is a little spawning platform that's going to generate a small amount of mobs. We could build multiple spawning platforms if we want to, but we really don't need that many mobs for what we want to do here. The next step is to get the redstone wired up so the water source ends up propelling them off the sides of the platform and collecting them in some sort of catchment area that we can use to our advantage. But before that, I've got to go and finish off the roof because I need a couple of stacks more slabs to get that thing done. And after going back to my base for some more slabs and getting a little bit more food while I was there, we now have a platform here where the light level is 7 or lower on every single block, and that's absolutely perfect for being able to spawn mobs. The next step is going to be setting up a dispenser to dispense a water block in the middle of there that's going to run out to the edges, and for that I think we'll probably end up using another etho hopper timer, although I brought a couple of repeaters just in case we need them. But I think the dispenser should just be able to face downwards into the center block here where the ice is right now, and that should take care of that. So after a little bit of finagling to get the dispenser facing downwards onto that middle block there, dispensing a water source should flood the entire platform, and then we can put the timer above it on the middle block up here, and that should hopefully allow us to set up a redstone circuit without any problem. First of all, let's get ourselves a bucket of water just by breaking that ice and collecting it up with a bucket, and then I think up here we're going to make the hopper timer, and it's just going to be a single redstone dot on here being pulsed by an observer, and the usual setup with comparators, hoppers, and we'll have to find some stack of items to put in there. Let's put some smooth stone slabs in there for now, seeing as I have a few extra. In fact, we might actually need to start that one block up, which is fine. It's not going to affect the spawning platform down here in any way, but I need a space for the hoppers to go. So we're going to have those two facing inwards into each other like so. I'll put a torch up here so we can actually see what I'm doing here, and a redstone block on top of these is the thing that's going to be shunted back and forth, and every time that gets pushed into this position, it's going to trigger this observer here, and the observer should send a redstone pulse to that dispenser. Let's just check that works. Yep, okay, sounds like the dispenser ticked over there. That's great. So we need a redstone dot on top of there, a redstone dot on top of there, a comparator facing each way out of the hopper, put a sticky piston facing that way, a sticky piston facing that way, and we should put a redstone block in between the two of those and fill this up with 64 smooth stone slabs. Now, that timer should be ready to go, and that should be ticking the dispenser every time 64 blocks run through the system, and we could shorten or lengthen the time of that as required. But for now, the way this is going to work is if we put a water bucket in there, every 64 blocks that tick through that, it's going to dispense the water into this space, and hopefully when it ticks one more time, that should also clear up the water as well. Yep, brilliant. Looks like it has cleared that up. The water is back in the dispenser. Everything is good to go. So now, if I remove this glass bridge leading up here, and I will have to go and collect the glass in a minute because we're going to need to make that into a platform underneath here. Once I get a certain distance away, we should start to see mobs spawning on this platform when it is not covered in water, and then being ejected from the platform by the water streams when they flood out of the dispenser. And yes, it is true that having a spawnable space over here is going to slow down the rates of this creeper spawning platform, which were not excessively large to begin with, but that's kind of okay, because if we want to, we can always disable this farm where necessary. And look, there we go, we've got at least one skeleton spawning on there right now. We might even see a few more spawns, maybe if I take a couple more steps back, but it's okay if we just get the odd mob here and there. We're definitely going to be able to get a skull out of that skeleton once we have some charged creepers. So the skeleton is just going to get washed off the platform over the edge there, and it's going to fall. Now right now it's going to fall to the ocean where it will despawn once it gets far enough away from us, but the idea is that we're going to collect all of the mobs in a secondary section underneath here that's going to sort them into the different types of mob. Hey folks, welcome back. So what we're working with here is a 19 by 19 glass box, and this goes directly underneath this spawning platform in the farm. It's all made out of glass so that we don't get any additional spawns down here, but we are going to be flooding this thing out. If I've got the right pickaxe here, we are going to be flooding the entire thing out so that water streams flood towards this central part here. And of course, we've got some extra space around the outside here, but we're going to be putting water streams on all of the corners as well, and filling in water streams on all of the sides. We need to put these water streams here one block up though, so that it doesn't form a bunch of infinite water sources all flowing in towards the center and like fill up this entire area. But if I put two more on here and then I create an infinite water source next to those on this side, like here for example, then I can start to fill in the rest of these with buckets, and hopefully that shouldn't flood over the middle. It should just reach the middle perfectly, allowing all of the mobs to drop down into the mob sorting system. And I'm sorry that you can't really see this super well right now, but basically the idea is that we're going to have this set up sort of like the old iron farm was. If you remember back in the day when we had an iron farm with a platform like this with a 3x3 tube where the mobs would drop down the center, that's basically what this section underneath the farm is. And hopefully the mobs will have enough headroom underneath these blocks. If not, we might end up replacing these blocks with some more stone slabs to make sure that mobs will be able to fit underneath here, because I have a feeling that if they're bobbing up and down in the water, then potentially they could hit their heads. However, skeletons and zombies will sink in water now, and we're going to use that fact to our advantage when we come to sort the mobs in a second. But for now, I have a feeling that they might just scrape along the bottom of these flowing water sections, and they won't actually hit their heads on this section of the farm. But if not, that's an easy fix. That should be totally fine. Phase 1 of our mob sorter here is remarkably straightforward, and it has one simple purpose in mind, which is to filter out the spiders. Spiders do not drop mob heads of any kind. We don't really want them in the system at all, but spiders are one of the most frequent mobs that spawns on a spawning platform like this. So in order to get rid of them, we have a fairly simple test here. Is the mob more than 1 block wide? Which in the case of spiders, the answer is yes. And the creepers, zombies, and skeletons that we actually want to filter out in this farm are 1 block wide, or actually a little bit less than 1 block wide. So their hitboxes will allow them to come up against these trapdoors, for which we're going to have a bucket of water kind of filtering them down to the end here, and actually a single bucket seems to be doing the trick, unless they would get stuck on the side here, but no, I think they would all make their way down to the end here. A spider is going to hit this water, is going to come into contact with the trapdoors, and is going to want to climb them. Now, the cool way we can get around this is by having a bunch of trapdoors up here, or potentially, yeah, like 1 block along like this, along here. And then between this trapdoor and this trapdoor, we have an empty block here, and that's where we're going to place another water source, or potentially even a lava source if that wouldn't interfere with the lighting from the farm here. So maybe if we had a solid row of blocks here, then we wouldn't have to worry too much about lighting. But in this case, we're using glass, so you can see through the entire thing and see it working, so we couldn't kill them instantly. However, if you have spiders coming up into this space, they would end up suffocating in the water blocks there. And let's make a quick outline here that we can use to block off any water on the inside, like so, and on the corners there as well. And then any water we put in this space is just going to hang on the top of these trapdoors here. When the spiders go up into it, their hitbox is going to be completely drowned in the water, and eventually they will suffocate and die. That will also have the added effect of dropping any string that they drop out of the back of here, although we're not really going to use this as a string farm. I'm going to quickly grab another bucket of water to pop that in here, like so, and yeah, there we go. That should actually be enough, although I am going to fill that all with complete water sources just in case they end up going into the top corner there and somehow are able to breathe through that space of flowing water. We just need to make a water source up in here, and that really should take care of the spiders in their entirety. So that's going to leave our creepers, skeletons, and zombies to fall off of this down onto the next level. And the next level is going to have a couple of things that will sort out the creepers, the zombies, and the skeletons. And for our next trick, we're coming out to the savannah because we need 3 very specific things, or actually 3 very specific mobs. We need a cat, a dog, and a villager. And these might seem like strange things to include in a mob sorting, mob farm situation, but believe me, this is going to work out splendidly well. By the way, this savanna biome over here seems to be a shattered savanna biome, which are some of the most incredible looking and picturesque biomes in the entire game. There are some really, really interesting terrain formations. This is actually kind of tame by comparison to some of the ones I've seen out there, but it's still worth exploring and flying around a little bit. Fantastic stuff. Alright, I'm going to try my best to find a village because that is doubtless where we will be able to find both a villager and a stray cat, and I brought myself a few things that we're going to be able to tame a cat and a dog with. We've got some raw cod and we got some bones. We have boats for all 3 of these mobs, so hopefully we'll be able to tame a cat, find a dog and tame it as well, and then bring back a villager in this boat. Savannas and deserts are usually going to have villages around some of the flatter areas, so here's hoping we can find some within close range of our mob farm so that we don't have to go too much further afield. And look at that, just seconds later we've stumbled upon a village, and hopefully this river will allow us to connect to the sea. And oh, fantastic, there are cats here as well. Some of them have even caught some rabbits, which means they are probably primed and ready to start helping us sort some creepers, because that is the purpose of the cats in these farms. If you'll remember, creepers are scared of cats, and so having a cat in the farm is going to allow us to sort the creepers from the other mobs. Now, hopefully, one of these cats feels like coming a little bit closer. That white one up there looks like it's coming in our direction, so let's see if we can get its attention with some raw cod. Hi! Oh, okay, right. Right click, yes, okay, got it in one, fantastic. Okay, now let's take this cat back to the shoreline and hopefully, oh gosh, there are phantoms around, but I have a cat now. Cats actually scare phantoms as well, so I'm wondering if this phantom will, yep. Amazing, the cat is going to protect us tonight. Awesome. I did not realize that was going to be the case. And hopefully, if we can get ourselves into a bed over at this village, we should also be able to reset our insomnia counter without skipping through the night. Now, I felt like it was probably going to have to be the case that I would skip the night sooner or later, and that's reset the day-night cycle, which is going to be really, really annoying for the purposes of making this mob farm, but oh well. I guess we're going to have to deal with that. Now, to despawn all of the husks, let's at least get out of the way with this cat and fly a little bit closer to the farm so we can put the cat in a boat, ready to be transferred over to the farm. It should teleport to me while I'm over here. Yep, perfect. Okay, we got it. Now, let's bring the cat over to the shoreline and pop it in a boat, and let's go back and get a villager. The good news is this river biome over here actually seems to connect to the ocean, so as long as we can convince a villager to get in one of these boats, which is easier said than done because occasionally they don't want to. Yes, there we go. Okay, we should be able to row this guy into the river, bring him around the side of the ocean here to... We can bring him along the coast to meet up with the cat on the coast over there, and hopefully all we should need to do then is find a tiger biome where a wolf will be hanging out. They might also be in some of the forest biomes around here, so the chance is we could get one from there, but I think a tiger is usually the most common place to find them. Amazing. Amazing. We have some wolves over here. Like, the villager is in that box over there, and the cat is right next to it. There is a couple of wolves basically right here in this forest. It's nighttime right now, and hence the need to protect the villager because the zombies will be out looking for them. But hopefully, if I sneak up on one of these wolves and can take care of the spiders in this forest, we should hopefully be able to tame a wolf, and we will have everything we need. Yes, perfect. Okay, great. Gonna let off a firework in celebration, and you need to come with me before that creeper decides to explode right next to you, because there's only one other wolf that I've seen in this forest so far. Hopefully, we should be able to get you over to this island. And hopefully that dog will... Yes, okay, the dog is teleported to me. Amazing. Right, now we can take them all over to the farm. Oh, this is perfect. The one problem, though, is the drowned, because they will come after this villager like he is bait. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of preparation beforehand to make sure that we can drive them right up to the farm and get them up to the level we require them, because these 3 mobs are going to be sorting creepers, skeletons, and zombies into separate pods. So here's the plan. Any mobs that make it through the spider check, namely the skeletons, zombies, and creepers, are going to end up on this platform here. And this is where we test what the mob is by putting it through a couple of very quick checks. First of all, we put a dog at one end of this platform and a cat at the other end of this platform, and that is going to determine whether the mob is a skeleton or a creeper, because creepers are immediately going to want to run away from the cat, skeletons are going to want to run away from the dog, and by doing that, those mobs will run to the opposite ends of the platform, and they can fall through a set of trapdoors that we're going to be placing for them at either end here. The next question you're probably asking is what's going to happen to the zombies, and the zombies are going to be attracted towards a villager standing over here. In fact, we could probably narrow this down to a 1 block wide walkway here with a villager at the end of it. But then unlike the cat and the dog that we're going to have positioned over here, the villager over here is actually going to attract the zombie towards it instead of scare it away. And that's going to mean that the skeletons end up opposite the dog, the creepers end up opposite the cat, and the zombies end up here because they've been lured towards where the villager is. So that means we need to bring the cat, the dog, and the villager up here, which is going to require a pretty large water elevator. Here's a quick tip for making 2x2 bubble columns, though. You don't have to make sure that the kelp is on all 4 blocks, just place them in opposite corners, because even if the other corners don't fill out with full water source blocks, you will still be able to carry a boat or whatever you want to transport upwards using bubble columns in opposite corners. There we go, that should be the entire thing filled up with solid sources of water, and all we should need to do is place a 2x2 of soul sand at the bottom here, and we will have ourselves a working bubble elevator that should be able to transport a boat directly up here into the area we've set out for the farm. Not to mention the fact that whatever's in there is not going to suffocate in there, because water columns like that, bubble columns, actually replenish your oxygen supply as you travel upwards. I think we might need to move the soul sand 1 block further down though, so let me just quickly reorient that. First up, we're going to bring our good boy over here into the boat. Yes, okay, perfect. And we should be able to row him over to the water elevator. And let's see how well we do here. First, we've got to open up these trap doors like so. And if we row in here... Whoa, okay, yeah, the wolf took a little bit of damage there, and I have left the boat, but hopefully the wolf should be able to ascend up here with us, and has not drowned. Yay! Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened there. That seemed to be a strange confluence of glitches leading to the wolf, unfortunately, not making it. So... I guess we'll try with the villager next. I think what I'm going to try and do this time around is get the villager out of the boat first, because the boat will kick you out if it's underwater. Like if a boat sinks or has water poured on top of it, it will typically kick you out of riding it, and I don't know if the same is true of other mobs. So I have a feeling the dog just kind of like glitched out a little bit there, and when we saw it walking away, that wasn't actually the position of the dog, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm really not sure why that happened, so I am kind of clutching at straws here, but I'm hoping that if we take the villager out of the boat first, he'll be able to survive that trip up the bubble column with a lot more success. And given that the drowned have been congregating around here recently, this is going to be a little bit treacherous getting him out of the boat in the first place. But if we ride him right up to the doors here, we leave the boat, we get him out of the boat, and then we should be able to nudge him a little bit. Thankfully, they're a little bit more manipulatable in water, and yep, I'm gonna have to go back for him. No, apparently I'm not. Apparently he is here, and he is rising up. He's actually taking up. Yes, he's done it. He's here. Oh, wonderful. Okay, and now we have to convince him not to walk off any of these trapdoors, which is going to be easier said than done. I think my best bet is to actually get glass around him like that, and try and block off any areas he could potentially stand nearby. Then if we remove him from the boat like so, yes, he's in. Okay, great stuff. And now what we need to do is put a trapdoor like that so that he won't be able to get out if we put a block above his head like that. But then when we remove this block, the zombie will be able to see him and will walk over these trapdoors trying to get to him. And that right there is the zombie trap all ready and prepared. So hopefully we'll be able to do something similar with the dog and the cat. Alternatively, what we could do is take them out of the boat on a little island here and try and get them to teleport up this high. I'm not certain if there is a vertical limit to how far pets will teleport to you, but that could be another option if we are unable to get them up here using the boat bubble column method. It seemed to work out okay that way with the villager though, so first we'll drive the cat a little way into the doors over here, but not enough to catch the bubble column. Then when we exit the boat, we can take the cat out of the boat like so, and hopefully, fingers crossed, as we push it into the bubble column, it'll make its way up there. Yes! Okay, it looks like the cat is making its ascent. I can see it on the way up. Hopefully it should have enough oxygen and it's not going to start taking any suffocation damage. But when we make it to the top of the farm, the cat is here! Hooray! Okay, and now, as soon as possible, we're going to try and make it sit. You know, I think it's actually going to be worth our time to put this cat back into a boat when it's up here, because cats have a tendency to wander a little bit. Typically in a creeper farm, you will put a cat in a minecart, and that stops the cat from trying to move towards the creepers that spawn, and I think that might be a good idea here, because even just having this cat sit down is not going to be enough. Okay, dog number 2. Let's hope this one goes a little bit better than the last one, and I'll pop him into the water column like so. Just a couple of nudges, and I think he's away. I think the dog is rising slowly ahead of us. Let's hope that he makes it to the top intact this time and doesn't immediately walk off the edge. Yep, looks like he's staying there, and sit. Very good. Very good. Good dog. Okay, let's see if we can get the dog to follow us over onto this block here, where hopefully it should be able to sit for the foreseeable future. There we go, and hopefully we should be able to take the dog out of the boat and sit. Yes, there we go. Okay, now if we nudge it back onto this block a little bit, I'm going to try my best to have it over here so that the skeletons don't try and walk towards the villager over here. They're not going to be lured towards the villager or anything, but I think having the dog over here will send the skeletons kind of back against this wall and force them down here. That is my hope, at least. I hope the range that they are scared by dogs is enough that it will take this trapdoor over here into account. If not, then we may have to adjust the size of some of this setup here, but it is a little wide right now, mainly to account for the size of spiders so they don't climb up the sides of the walls here. But I think, with any luck, this should actually be a complete setup now. If we take away the glass over here and take away some of the sandstone I've used to bridge, close down the bubble column in its entirety, and hopefully we should now have a mob sorting system. The one last thing we need to do is make some sort of holding cell down here that all of these mobs are going to be gathered into. And so with that in mind, I'm going to break out the glass once again and create 3 separate glass tanks under each of these. One for the creepers, one for the skeletons, and this one here should be for the zombies. We could connect each of these with a minecart rail coming out of the corner to grab one mob at a time and bring them into contact with the charged creepers, which unfortunately are still not charged, and it looks like we're not going to get a natural storm before the end of this video. So this video is going to have to be focused specifically on mob sorting for today, and hopefully we'll be able to farm a few mob heads using this whole thing in the near future. Alrighty, I think we're ready to give this thing a try. It is raining once again, and I'm going to let it rain just in case it turns into a thunderstorm, but we now have 3 individual cells set up here. One for the zombies here in the center, one for the skeletons on that side, and one for the creepers on that side. I am crossing my fingers that this is going to work, but it's time to pull that lever to reactivate the etho hopper clock and turn this farm back on. Hopefully, when we're on this platform over here, we should be able to basically stand a distance enough from the farm that, yes, we have some skeletons and some zombies. This is going to be an interesting first test of how this is going to work, and potentially they could still wander off the platform. We've got a creeper there as well, and a spider or two. Oh, one of the spiders at the back there is invisible, so let's see how this all works out. It looks like they're all going down there as planned. Yep, and they are passing the test now. So now the creeper should get scared by the cat and should run away. The zombie is already going for the villager. Perfect. Okay, the skeletons are not really reacting to the dog in the way I expected them to, and one of them has already ended up over there on the platform. So I'm not quite certain how this is going. Maybe there are just too many skeletons right now, and it looks like one of the creepers has actually found its way up into that little patch there and is dying. So that's fine. Hopefully the spider should be able to die that way as well. So that platform is now filling up with creepers and skeletons, neither of which seem to be particularly interested in moving away from the stuff that's supposed to be scaring them. I wonder what's going on there. Maybe it's an eyeline thing. Maybe the fact that the dog and the cat are just out of the eye lines of some of these mobs. Maybe if we bring them one block up, that will be slightly scarier for them. But we know for a fact that mechanics like this have worked in the past because cats have scared creepers away in our creeper farm for the longest time, and skeletons should be scared of wolves, and even tamed dogs count as wolves for the purposes of that. So yeah, the platform there is incredibly crowded right now, so I'm going to have to fly away and despawn all of these mobs by getting 128 blocks away, so they despawn instantly. And once we come back, we will turn off the clock on the top of this farm, and hopefully we shouldn't get any more spawns in the meantime while we figure out what's going on here. So after a significant amount of time spent in a creative mode test world figuring this out and sleeping on it, because this is actually now the following day, and I'm sorry this episode is being uploaded so late if you're watching it as it releases, but I think I've finally figured out how to separate the zombies and creepers from the skeletons, and we're actually going to do it in 2 stages. We're going to filter the zombies out first, put the skeletons and the creepers in one place, and then separate those out independently of each other. And oh, hello. We have a couple more creepers coming up here as well. It is nighttime right now, and I'm pretty sure as soon as I step out of here, some phantoms are going to spawn, so I'll do my best to explain this from underneath my little makeshift shelter over here. So we have a villager, a cat, and a dog now standing in more or less the same place. The idea being that the zombies are going to be attracted towards the villager, but the creepers and skeletons are going to be driven away in the same direction, and they are going to fall down that second set of trapdoors over there. That big grass platform that you see there in the distance is actually there to provide some blocks for the skeletons and creepers to pathfind to, because I think the trouble I was having was that they weren't able to pathfind to any blocks that were a significant distance away from the cat and the dog. When I tried it out in my creative flat world, which I use for testing, they had no problems running like 10 blocks or so away from a cat, whereas in this setup before, they weren't getting more than 3 or 4 blocks away. So it did kind of seem to be the case that they needed a large area to pathfind to, and by placing this over here, I've actually got it down to a pretty decent rate where they will spot the cat or the dog and then they will run. So I'm going to try and avoid the phantoms here. I'm going to switch the farm back on by flipping that lever and starting the redstone clock again. We'll get underneath here, and hopefully we should start to see a few skeletons and creepers spawning on the spawning pad now. If they will spawn, yes, there we go. Okay, we have 4 creepers coming in, and hopefully once the timer activates and flushes them out of this section of the farm, they'll fall down here, and you'll see how quickly they run off the platform at the back. There we go. Okay, we're not getting anything else, thankfully. We're only getting creepers, so we're not getting zombies or skeletons at this stage. They go through the first check over there to make sure that they are not spiders, and then they fall down onto this platform. Pretty much immediately, they should notice that there is a cat there, and there you go. They're all dropping off the platform. It just needed that section of pathfindable blocks behind there, and they're going to fall down those trapdoors, no questions asked. Brilliant. That means we can move on to phase 2, but before that, I will just check that the zombies are behaving as they should, because they had a little bit of trouble pathfinding over those trapdoors before to try and get to the villager. So let's see, we've got 2 zombies coming through here. Oh, we got 3 actually. I didn't see the one at the back. The spider should be caught up in the water trap here, so that's nothing to worry about. Once the zombies fall down onto the platform, they immediately see the villager, and it looks like they are now falling down into the box there, which is perfect. They jump around a little bit, but they will have no contact with the villager whatsoever. And that last zombie is coming down here. Is he going to do the same thing? He is. Perfect. Just so you can get a look at what this looks like from the other side, this is the 3x3 platform that everything is going to be falling down onto here, and right here we have a villager set 2 blocks back and on a level with the platform here so that the zombie's eye line is not interrupted by any of the glass blocks around here. We have a dog sat on a glass block 1 block in front of the villager, and we have a cat sat on a glass block, same thing, on the opposite side. That scares the skeletons, that scares the creepers, the zombies are attracted towards the villager, and they fall down into the pit. I'm flying away from this farm periodically so that I despawn anything that's in here, so that I'm not in danger when I work on the farm a little bit more. So if you notice that any of the mobs disappear in between shots, that is why. I'm just despawning everything in this area. The next step is going to be to build out a little glass tank down here, and that is where we're going to bring the creepers and skeletons through the next phase of the filter. And this one, thankfully, doesn't require any animals. It's actually fairly simple to filter skeletons and creepers separately. In fact, all we need to do here is set up a platform of glass that's going to come out in this direction, and we're going to have separate cells for the creepers here and the skeletons here. And this is going to take advantage of the way water flows, and it's going to allow the creepers to be filtered out underneath a spruce trapdoor, which I should still have some of. Yeah, okay, we need a trapdoor of any kind. Doesn't have to be a spruce one, obviously, but you're going to have the creepers filtering out through one section because the water is going to favor flowing in that direction. However, skeletons are 2 blocks tall, where creepers are like 1.75 blocks tall, so they're not going to be able to fit under the same space that the creepers are, and the water is going to flow in a different direction to carry them to a different cell. So we've got a platform that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks long on one side and 7 blocks long on the other side. On the 5th block along, where this wall ends, we're going to place a little glass pillar there. And what this is going to do when we place a water source here is it's going to filter the water in two different directions. One goes that way and the other goes that way. And actually, when the creepers and skeletons come around here, they are going to try and go in that direction. They are trying to go east. And once we put in a few more glass walls around here, they will be filtered into this direction and this direction. On this side is where we're going to be placing that trapdoor I mentioned. So if we place that there, and then of course we're going to block it off on this side, the creepers are going to naturally drift off in this direction, and they're going to fall into their own holding cell, while the skeletons continue on because they can't go underneath that trapdoor, and the skeletons will actually get filtered into a different section. We're going to build these glass walls all the way up here just to make sure they don't get confused by any blocks that they could potentially pathfind to. So that one's actually going to reach all the way up here to the ceiling, if I can reach that high, which I can't right now. Of course, you could always set up another cat and dog filter in the same way that we've done up here, but with dogs and cats on opposite sides, as long as there were pathfinding blocks that they could make their way to on the other side. But I think this method is actually going to work a little bit better than that, and is going to mean that I don't have to go and tame another cat and another dog. So with two separate glass cells now built for the creepers and the skeletons, I think it is time to give this thing a go. So let's turn on the farm and see what we get out of this. There we go, we got some zombies spawning over there. Hopefully we see a couple of others. Oh, that scared me there for a second. Wow, okay. A couple of cycles through this farm, though, and we should start to see a couple of creepers and skeletons make their way through as well. Of course, the main thing to remember about this farm is that you need to make it out of transparent blocks if you don't want mobs to spawn elsewhere, and even that grass platform over there that we're using as pathfinding blocks is lit up so that nothing can spawn on there. That's kind of important just because we will need to make sure that nothing spawns over there and tries to make its way into the rest of the farm. Okay, we got a couple of skeletons in there now. The zombies have made their way down into the zombie holding pen as required, and it looks like we have 4 skeletons right now, hoping for a couple of creepers to show up as well, but that shouldn't be a problem. The creepers should just make their way down into the right cell once they arrive, and the skeletons likewise. The occasional spider is still going to be filtered out by the water trap, but yes, the skeletons are walking off there. They're making their way down into the water trap. They can't go through that first section, so they make it all the way to the end on that side where a 2x1 cell is waiting for them. Perfect. Okay, that one's gone in. That last guy should be making his way now as well, and I think we have a skeleton stuck up there with the spiders, just because the spiders are a little big and their hitboxes blocking the way. We could always make that section there 1 block taller if we wanted to, but building up in the sky with all of this glass is a little bit of a pain, so I haven't done too much of that where necessary. And yep, looks like the skeletons are all making their way down into here as well. Do we have any creepers spawning up here in the farm? That is the last test we need to go through to make sure this filter system works flawlessly. And the cool thing is we're even still getting creepers spawning in our creeper spawning cell down there. So that may even be why we're not getting that many creepers spawning up here in the farm to begin with, is because the game's like, well, we've got enough creepers already down there. The ones who are in the pool should, of course, be exempt from the mob cap because they're all name tagged, so those shouldn't be contributing to that in any way. Let's see if we can get a couple of creepers up here in the top of the farm to declare that a success as well. You know what? I think I am going to give this farm a bit of a soft reset by flying away and despawning all of the mobs and then coming back. Yep, okay, we got a creeper, we got a zombie, and we've got a couple of skeletons. Maybe we'll get a couple more mobs spawning in before the dispenser activates, but it looks like we'll at least be able to test the creeper filtering system. Okay, great. We have 3 creepers now, so that's even more. And wow, okay, a huge pack of zombies just spawned, so that's going to be a pretty hefty test of the system. And I have noticed a couple of zombies occasionally hitting this platform, and entity collision means that they end up going down into the area that should be reserved for the skeletons. But if we hop them down here, yep, there we go. They're all, yeah, that zombie with the gold armor is potentially going to get pushed in. We have the skeletons filtering in there. The creepers should drift off to the left there. Fantastic. Looks like that one is as well, but the skeletons can't go in there. And now that one creeper that's left on the platform should eventually notice the cat and will fall down there as well. Great. And if we get that last one in the box, perfect. Look at that. Super easy filter. I'm really, really happy with this. And of course, it took a little bit of wrangling to get them in place to begin with, but now we have another pack of skeletons and creepers spawning up here. Those should come down into the farm and will end up in the same places. I'm really happy that we finally managed to get this nailed. It's taken me a little while to get this episode done, but thankfully we have a working mob filtering system now, and I need to make sure I stay underneath here just in case the phantoms turn up. It's almost dawn, so they are going to despawn in the sunlight. But yeah, they're a little bit of a menace right now, and I still have not had a storm. So unfortunately, we're going to have to save mob head farming until another episode. But it does look like each of our mobs is making its way through the filter as intended. So that's where we're going to wrap up this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed watching this episode. Please don't forget to leave a like on it if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.